Evening, everyone. It's 5:35, and this is your closing comment. It is video number 991 for Monday afternoon, the 25th. So a couple of things I just want to mention housekeeping-wise, and that is we'd really appreciate it if you subscribed to the channel. It doesn't cost anything, and it is supportive. And secondarily, I want to remind everyone that we still have a couple of seats open in the gold only or metals only trading program for futures with Dennis Marlowe, who again has called the gold move yet another time. Today we closed, looks like pretty close to a breakout at 1806.80, up 10.5. And for the first time in a while, it actually wasn't much higher and sold off. It actually held most of the gain. Okay, so let's get to the real news here, and that is that Tesla became Tesla finally became a $1 trillion market cap. The stock traded as high as 1,045 today. Last I have is 1,028.98, which is up about 118 and change, and that's a pretty substantial move. 13% it looks like to me. Okay, Facebook had earnings tonight, and they missed on revenues and they beat on earnings. And the stock had closed at 328.69, up 408. And the way they released it was they released the miss in revenues first, and the stock traded all the way down to 314. Then they announced the earnings. I mean, we're talking about 30 or 60 seconds here. And when they did that and people started to see what actually was happening, the stock turned and rallied all the way back $30 to 344.30. The last is 338, and that is up 13.45 or 4.15%. The call is going on right now. There's a lot of discussion of the metaverse, and Mark Zuckerberg saying that, some of the leaked documents have been done on a very selective basis, and they paint a picture of Facebook that is not accurate. Personally, Mark Zuckerberg is almost never accurate, and I'll just leave it at that. Kimberly Clark, KMB, had a range today of 125 on the low, 130.57 on the high, and it looks like the last is 130.11. That's down $2.93 or 2.2%. But as I said, it was much lower, and that was based on guidance of input costs, but they seem to be able to pass them along to you and me. So another example of why the inflation is not transitory. Disney is raising prices. The stock was up 2.59 or 1.5% to 172 and change. PayPal not taking another run at Pinterest. PayPal up 6.5%. Pinterest down 7.38 or 12.7%. And Remark, M-A-R-K, I mentioned it this morning. It had traded as high as $9.90 after having closed yesterday at $2.67, I believe it was. And in the real world, not pre-market, the highest it could get was $6.70, so $3.20 below the high, which is another example of why you shouldn't be taking major positions in anything pre-market or post-market for that matter. Stock traded all the way down to $2.78. The last I have right now is $3.82, up $1.65 or 76%. And DWAC, the newest meme stock, it traded up to 175 last week, as I mentioned. Today the high was 121, and the last is 85.18, and that's down 903 or 9.5%. The Dow and the S&P both made new highs, although the biggest winner today was the Russell, up 2137. Dow up 8.18%, up 64. The Nasdaq up 0.9%, 136.51. That is not a new high. The S&P up 21.58, or just under 0.5%. That is a new high. And the Dow Jones Transport's up 65 basis points, at up 102.32. Advanced declines were 1.4 to 1 on the NYSE, 1.6 to 1 on NASDAQ. What was interesting today was that the volume was about 40% higher than it has been. It's been running around 4 to 4.1 billion. Today it was 5.6 billion. The chart on the screen is the nat gas, which I said last week and back here, 475, the most recent major breakout, was support here. Turns out it was support here again, and we've been riding on this orange line, which is the 50-day moving average, and today we got as high as $6 again. It depends upon whether we can make a new high here. I think I mentioned yesterday that I expected to see it higher, and if it didn't make a new high, I expect to see it come back in. I would say it probably comes back into that 475, 480 area if that's the way it shakes out. The oil was also up at a new recovery high today of 85.41. And then it came all the way back down to unchanged, actually down about 40 cents during the day, closed at 83.76, which was up 7 cents. The gold managed a 1806.80, up 10.5. I was looking for that also to hold one of these runs, as opposed to what it did on Friday when it got up to 1815 and then closed at 1796. Well, today it had a shorter range, but it was never down. It was an inside day, but it did close substantially higher, up over $10. So my number is, excuse me, my number is this closing high after the last major peak, and that would be 1807. I think in the letter I was saying it was 1808 would get me on the right side of that. Bitcoin up 1645, the dollar up 18 cents, and the bonds up 1/4 point, so 8.30 seconds. All right, everyone, have a good evening. I'll be back in the morning.